What's up, guys? My name's Doofus Mcdooface, and today I just wanted to go over 3 tips that I think could be really useful for newer mid-level players in Legion TD2. I recently did a teaching session, my third ever, and these were things that I really felt could be super useful for someone trying to push to the next the next bracket of elo, or just to try to get a sort of a good handle on the game. So one of the first things that I always tell people is positioning in the early game, having your ranged in front of your tanks is actually good. You know, sometimes you'll see builds that have ranged units, right? And then they'll have like steeds up here. Now, the reason that this is so bad, right, and it's not really effective, is it should be the opposite. Let's just watch, just for a second. This steed, the tank unit has already taken damage before the ranged DPS unit in this circumstance, or you could also use like a pilgrim, which is a healing unit, but that's besides the point. The ranged unit is late to hitting the wave, right? This steed has already taken damage. A tank, a melee unit, has already taken damage from the wave before the ranged unit has even hit them. That's not good, right? That's not going to be beneficial. You're losing out on tons of hits, tons of damage, and that's not going to allow you to push as effectively as you want to, right? So, whereas this is going to be, maybe actually, it might leak, right? This might actually leak, and it might be a really bad leak, right? A really bad leak of 100%, right? So we're probably leaking 100% leak versus if we literally just flip the units. I'm not going to do anything but flip the positioning of these units. Let's see if it's better. Let's see if this is better. You might also be able to split tank with the false main, right? Like, oh, here, see, it's split tanking now, right? In the early game, this is really effective. You've actually killed something. You killed a couple of things, right? We don't have proper value for this, right? But it's that simple. It really is that simple. I could show you guys with like 5 or 6 different units where it's going to be effective. Genuinely. One of my favorites also is Wave 5. Wave 5, the Pilgrim unit. The Pilgrim unit on Wave 5, having it tank the boss is so integral, right? And I'm not even saying that it has to tank the boss, right? I'm just trying to get the pure basics for you guys. The pure basics is that your ranged DPS are actually much better off being in front of your tanks in the early game, given that they don't die, right? So like there, our false maiden tanked perfectly, but it didn't need to tank, right? Like it should tank, but it doesn't have to. The main thing I'm trying to get after, because I see a lot, I've watched a lot of the lower elo games recently, and I've seen that a lot of people will put their ranged DPS units behind their tanks. That is not going to be the most effective thing to do, right? And I can show it again. Let's show it one more time here, just so you guys understand. So this is behind, right? Let's see how this wave 5 goes, and then let's send a robo because I want to see it leak. Right? Your ranged unit is behind, so it's a little late to hitting stuff. Right? I'm almost leaking the entire wave. I barely killed that boss, and I leak everything else. So once again, just so you guys can understand really quickly, right? What if we had the Pilgrim not even tank? I mean, of course it should tank, right? But not even tanking. I just want to see what's the difference if it's positioned better, right? If it's positioned a little bit better. Is there any change? Do we kill an extra creep? Right? Are we going to kill an extra creep? Let's find out. It already fixed the positioning of my other units, right? So now, do we kill something? We do kill something. We almost kill a second thing. We almost killed the second thing. So that adds up little by little. Little by little, that is always going to improve your board. Right? That little by little is always going to improve your board. Right? The only unit that you really want back is like Harpy, right? Harpy back here makes sense because it's literally generates mana. But in almost all circumstances, in the early game, you're going to want your damage in front of your tanks. You don't want it to die, right? It's not good if it dies. But the extra 1, 2, 3, 4 shots adds up when you're 55 under. When you're 100 under, the difference between getting those shots off early actually matters a lot, right? It actually matters a lot. And this is just the basics. Like this, I'm not explaining how to split. I'm literally just saying have your ranged DPS units in front of your tanks. If you really want to get better at this game, I genuinely don't care if you were positioning like that, right? If you're positioning your builds like this, one change, all I'm telling you, it's gonna make the world a difference. Literally, do that. That's it. That's it. That little bit of change. That little bit of change. And this leads me into the next part. The second thing is the later the game goes on, now you want to protect your damage, right? And whether that's on wave 8, right? Whether that's wave 8, which is ranged waves. Wave 11 is also a ranged wave. Now this becomes a slight problem, right? Once you've started to min-max, really pushing your builds to the next level, where you're hitting on that, oh, my unit is split tanking and it's a ranged unit, right? I have a 3-way split, right? We're divvying up the damage that we're taking by the wave. Once you start to min-max, then you need to account for the tougher waves where its positioning is a little bit different, right? So wave 8, because we have our unit in front, right? It's actually perfect here, right? But that could go bad if you get Ascend, right? So it's actually perfect here. See, it died. It died, right? So what you need to start understanding, and there's 2 levels to this. There's A, accounting for as the waves get stronger, I need to position a little safer, right? So in this circumstance, maybe I added a melee unit equal with it, right? Maybe I finally say, hey, screw it. I'm going to put something like that, right? Something that starts protecting your ranged DPS, right? Let's go back to wave 8, right? So now it's going to tank a lot less, right? Which, yes, you lose out on that min-max, but it's about the safety of those units, right? As the game gets later and later, you're now more focused on keeping those units alive than really pushing them to the limit. And so that's going to work for almost all of your ranged DPS units that I'm really hoping that you're pushing them to the limit in wave 1, wave 2, wave 3, up until wave 7, wave 8, wave 9. You know, if you can really push your ranged DPS units and your splits really to the limit in the early game, it's going to be much better for you, right? And one massive thing, as I keep harping on, is having your tanks tank before your DPS hits it is pretty much always a bad situation. So please try to work on that. Can be really useful. Next thing, and I know I just sort of got into it with ranged DPS units, but something that really breaks my heart recently that I've seen is not protecting your strongest unit. So ranged DPS might be your strongest unit, right? That might be your strongest unit. But what I'm talking about is things like a doppelganger. If you guys know what a doppelganger is, it's a scaling unit. Things like a doppelganger that is not the last unit to die on your board is a really, really easy fix. I'm telling you right now, it's a really, really easy fix. If you protect your strongest units, you always want your strongest unit to die last in a perfect world. If you protect your strongest unit, I'm telling you, you're going to do so much better. The difference between this, a doppelganger that dies almost immediately. Let's watch. We're very undervalued, but just so we have a quick idea, right? That doppelganger kills one thing and then just dies. It's already dead, right? We only killed one thing. We only killed one thing. Watch us kill two here. All right, and now having this doppelganger tucked so that it dies last, right? When you position it behind your tanks, right? You want to position your damage behind tanks. Here it actually got a perfect split, but that's besides the point. But because we had it positioned back there, right? We now killed two things, and that thing almost died. That's it. That's all I'm looking at. I'm looking at 83 versus 92%. I'm looking at 83 versus 92% right there. That simple bit right there matters so stinking much. Because realistically, right? Realistically, we're going to have a full board. Right? Realistically, you're in the comments right now. You're complaining. You're saying, Doofus, that was such a small amount. There was like no change there. Give us a full, clear idea. All right, I can do that for you. I can do that for you. Right here. We have more value this wave 12. Let's watch it again. This is the correct, better positioning. Right? This is better positioning. Where it's still tucked back there. It's going to live much longer. Right? And this is a unit that's scaling. Right? Now we got 58. We have 58% here. Now we're just flipping units. Right? This is literally the smallest change possible. Smallest change possible. 58%. Oh, sorry. And if you want more better teaching videos that I take a lot more time into, let me know. Like and comment. But yeah, look at this. My most important unit here on wave 12 is already dead. I've killed one thing. I've killed one thing. And that's it. Alright, sorry, two things. Look at that. Bingo. 58 versus 83%. That's a 25% difference. So you see the more value you have, the better the outcome will actually be shown. Right? Please, please, please protect your stinking damage. Right? Please, please, please protect your damage. Let's look at wave 19. If you're getting into the super, super deep waves, this is going to be a huge change. This is going to be a huge one. Watch this. Right? So let's say you did part one, right? You did part one, and you had your range DPS tanking. Great job, right? You really pushed it to the limit. But now on the most important wave, on wave 19, where the pierce damage is your best, right? And that's a lot of value right there of Trinity Archers. You really want to keep that alive. But we didn't fix the split. We didn't account for the wave. We are not protecting our damage, right? One just died instantly. One of our Trinity Archers just died instantly. That's not beneficial. Right? We don't have enough value there. But one of them literally just died instantly. That's not effective. That's not effective at all. Right? So, all you need to do... Nasty, but that's a huge change. Nasty, but that's a huge change. Right? Your Trinity Archers is still close to dying there, but it lived a lot longer, right? It lived a lot longer. Here it's going to be the same outcome because we have no value. So, same outcome, no value. But those things do add up. They really do, right? So I guess we needed to be even safer, right? That's a descriptor where in the late game, it's more important to be as safe as possible, right? You want to play the game as safe as possible.
One shot, 5 kills.
One really good description here. Azyria Steeds on 13. Azyria Steeds on 18. Watch this real quick. And then I'm going to show instantly dying Avenger. And then I'll show you the last thing that I would like to talk about. Oops. All right. Actually, this works perfectly with the Radiant Halo too. Radiant Halo actually works probably fine as well. All right, wave 13. Our Halo is tanking. We're pushing it to the max, right? It's tanking 1. It's living. It's doing amazing. This is perfect. That's a great Halo. That did so good. That did so good. Wow, that was awesome. All right, let's go to wave 18, which is comparable with that exact same wave, right? Comparable with that exact same wave. All right, and we're going to need... And let's not change the split, right? Let's not change the split. I'll add a ton of value so you guys aren't complaining about the value being off, right? All right, here we go. Let's see what happens to that arc. Let's see what happens to it. That arc is bye-bye because we did not change our split as the game got later, right? So, and this is going to work perfectly with number 3, right? This is going to work perfectly with number 3. In most games, you want to overplay early, overpush early, and then play it safer and safer later with your builds, with your workers. That's the truth of it. That's truly the truth of it. Play to leak waves 1 through 10. You're pushing it to the max. You're putting your ranged DPS in front. You're okay if it tanks half of the wave. You know, you're like, ooh, I was so close to holding there. I did leak, but it's okay. And then you push workers, right? You're scaling. You're okay with pro leaking. However, the late game, right? Now we're into the late game. That is not what we want, right? So now let's go on to my last part of this, number 3, which is exactly what I'm describing right there, is the early game. You're okay with pushing too hard, right? The early game, you want to push some things to the max, right? Little pro leak here. I'm not Fiesta, right? Little pro leak there. Now we're pushing 6. Now we're on 8 workers. Now we're on 9 workers. Now on 12 workers, we're pro leaking, right? This is great. This is good stuff, right? This is really good. We're holding, right? I kind of cheated, right? I kind of did this a little earlier. So get normalized with yellow and red values in the early game, and you're going to do very well. But in the mid game, that is not a time to overpush. The mid game is not a time where you want to see yellow or red numbers, right? Once the game gets to waves 11, waves 12, wave 13, wave 14, you need to be way more tactical about your push, right? Your build should probably be safer because, dude, if you lose your Azyria 540 gold unit, if you lose your Arc of Justice 545 gold unit, right? If you lose that Trinity Archer instantly on 19, that's 400 gold you are losing instantly. That's a problem, right? That's a problem because min-maxing early might work, but if you get in trouble min-maxing late, you are in danger, right? Which is exactly what's happening here, where maybe we're protecting some of our damage, but the value is just, we don't have enough value, right? We needed to under-push and play it a little safer. And look again, right? I push too many workers, and I leak again, right? I leak again. That's a problem, right? The better play is to tactically push, right? You're going to want to tactically push. Right? So in this game right here, you're going to see some tactical pushing, right? This fine player receives a 1,000 Mythium Send. He's at 23.5 workers. He only pushes 5 workers. He only pushes 5 workers. So when he receives the send on 19, he doesn't leak that bad, right? And look at this guy, also tactically pushing, right? Playing it safe. Now, there are going to be different levels to this, right? There's going to be different levels, knowing your weak waves, knowing when you're strong, knowing when to push. That's another part of the tacticalness, right? But if you're just purely looking at Doofus, give me the bare bones. I would say under pushing is going to be better for you, to be honest. I really do think so. Don't be afraid of the worker button in the mid game, but it has to be tactical. It has to be when you receive a send, right? It has to be when you only pro leak, not as we saw in that game previously, where I pushed 6 workers after leaking 120%. That's a bad idea, right? You should only be able to push in the mid game, right? This is after starting on wave 11. You should only be pushing in the mid game if you've received a send and done decent against it. Straight up. You should only be pushing if you did decent against it and received a send, right? So like here, they get full income king. They go from 14 to 23.5 workers. Perfectly fine. Maybe he could even gone more. This player goes from 19 workers, gets the income king, to 38 workers. 38 workers. And look at it. He holds the 17. He gets away with it because it was tactical. He full held the send, right? He was able to get away with that push. So there are some circumstances where you can push hard, but the timing has to be right. You can't push workers to no send, right? You can't be pushing workers to no send in the mid game. That's unless you 100% are trying to win the game on a certain wave. Don't be doing that. It's very risky. It's very risky. I'm telling you right now. Another mistake, though, is not pushing too hard when you receive this end, right? So here's the mistake. I only push 4 workers after pro leaking to a 440 Mythium Send, right? And then I finally push another 9. So I did hold their send, right? I pushed another 8 or 9. But look, I only pro leak my guy. Right? So you need to fine tune your push, right? Fine tune your push. I hope that was helpful. Those were the 3 things I really, really saw in doing my teachings. I don't want to give you guys too much because, if somebody pays me to teach them, I don't want to give everything away for free on YouTube. But the 3 things, once again, that really stuck out to me was the early game. I mean, there's really 2 parts to the early game, right? The positioning aspect of melee units in front of your damage just shouldn't happen. And then being okay with pushing workers in that early game, being okay with pro leaks it's just everything, man. Don't leak the whole wave, right? So you really, 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 if you want to get really good at the game, if you want to get really, really, really good at the game, right? You want to be pushed hard enough to where you will hold a no send, right? You'll hold if you receive nothing, but you will only pro leak to a send if they send income or power mercs in the early game, right? Like I'm pushing this to the absolute max. I would have held. I would have held if I did not receive that lizard, right? Once again, I'm Fiesta in this game, but it's still the same sort of circumstance. Not that one. Like right here, right? I'm 40 under. I'm pushed really hard. I only leak because they real send, right? I only leak because they real send. Then here I get away with a 145 under, right? We're pushing to the absolute maximum to where we're only leaking to power merc sends. That's just perfection in the early game, right? That's just perfection. Right? That is just huge. And then playing it safe in that mid game. Playing it safe in the mid game, it's going to do better for you. I'm telling you right now. Playing it safe in the mid game is going to do much better for you than you expect. I've seen a lot of people just dying to no send on wave 17, wave 18. Literally, teams losing the game because they don't have enough value to keep up with the wave creeps, not sends, just purely the wave creeps. And then I check back those games and I see, oh, they pushed 10 workers to no send. Ah, that's what happened. Oh, they received it. They received a send on 15 and leaked 150% and still pushed 15 workers. That's a problem, right? You have to adjust your push to only if it's deserved, right? The workers in the mid game, right? You can get away with it in the early game. The workers in the mid game must be deserved. And then the second thing we talked about, right? I'm jumping around here, is the difference. The difference of saving your important units in the late game is everything, right? It's everything. Did this leak, by the way? I never, just for fun, I kind of want to watch. Right, so we kill our Halo. Our Halo died here because we didn't position correctly, right? We did not position correctly. And yeah, I'm definitely leaking, right? I'm leaking half the wave on 18. That's a lot of gold lost, and that's a big problem for our king. Let's just make one change, right? And it can be ugly. It can be ugly. I'm telling you right now. It's okay if it's ugly. Right? It's okay if it's ugly. Because the importance of that's like well within the circle should be fine. Right? It's okay if it's ugly because this unit matters. This unit matters way too much. Right? And it actually pro-leaked. It actually pro-tanked. Right? It actually did pro-tank. So this is same value, different position. I held literally with like 15 steeds left. And the Halo's still alive. One position change. Right? One position change. That's it. That was it. And we can get even nastier, right? It's very nasty, I know. But I don't want this unit to die. Right? I don't want that unit to die. Right? But the beauty is it's still even with this worse positioning, where it's literally even with a melee unit, guess what? It's still attacking before the tank walked up. It's still attacking before the tank walked up. So just because you're playing it safer doesn't mean you need to have the Halo back here, right? It doesn't mean your Halo should be back here, right? This is not good. This is not beneficial. I think this is probably still better than it dying. But it's not the best. It is not the best by any means. Right? It's not even average. Does it even hold? This is close. This is a close one. We're down to only a couple steeds left here. It does hold. But that was close. That was very close. But I hope that was useful for you guys. I know a lot of my teachings, holy moly, 28 minutes. I know a lot of my teachings are just throwing a bunch of stuff at you, but I hope you were able to gather some knowledge from it. My name is Doofus Mcdooface. Thank you for watching.